Nigel Farage on the front of a lot of the papers this morning. Let's get some reaction from the man.
What a tie.
Well, you don't like his tie? Well, we'll put that to him, because
tie.
He's standing by for us out. And actually, if you want to chip in, feel free, guys, as soon as you're here. Nigel Farage is in Rochester. Good morning to you. And I will tell you, I've got Yasmin Alibi-Brown from The Independent, Kevin Schofield from The Sun. They may chip in, Mr Farage, to have a word with you this morning. Look, congratulations on the second MP.
Thank you.
Was this margin as big as you were hoping for?
Well, considering that we were up against a Conservative Party who used the Prime Minister as their pin-up boy, he visited here 5 times. They had more troops on the ground yesterday than I've ever seen at any British by-election. They've made more phone calls yesterday than has ever happened before. Goodness knows how the Conservative campaign comes within spending limits. That's quite a mystery to me. So when they said they throw the kitchen sink at this, my goodness me, they did. And despite that, and despite their boasts, and despite their belief that they would win Rochester, you know, we have beaten the governing party of the day in this sort of life-death struggle. So I think for us, it represents a huge, huge victory. It says to people that if you vote UKIP, you get UKIP. And I think what it really does is to make any prediction for next year's general election frankly irrelevant. I think the whole thing now is up in the air. It's very, very difficult to call.
But when you look at the change in share of the vote, you've attracted almost sort of equal share from the Conservatives, from Labour and from Lib Dems, the biggest from the Lib Dems, actually. Had you go on a little bit earlier on saying, actually, what that indicates is that this is a protest vote and nothing more.
Oh, it's always a protest vote. We won the European elections. That was a protest vote. We won Clacton. It's always a protest vote. And that's the sort of comfort blanket that the commentariat and the Westminster political class use. Believe me, you know, come with me today out to the towns and villages in this constituency, meet the people who voted UKIP yesterday. They weren't protesting. They were voting for us because they believe in us. They were voting for us because they actually think that UKIP might just be able to change things. It's a very positive vote. It's not a negative vote. And all the evidence now is that people that vote UKIP want to vote UKIP in every possible election.
I've had a tweet this morning from Alan Tompkins, Nigel, who says, why do the media overlook the real reasons we're going over to UKIP? Only one policy matters: to get out of the EU. The reality is, you vote for UKIP, we're not going to get out of the EU.
Well, I don't really understand that, Mr Tompkins. Perhaps you're suggesting that we should trust David Cameron. A lot of people did that a few years ago when he gave us, and I quote, a cast-iron guarantee that if he became Prime Minister, there'd be a referendum. He dropped that pledge. He spent the whole of 2012 campaigning against there being a referendum. UKIP started to pop up in the polls. He now promises a referendum. By the time next May comes, Ed Miliband will promise one, Nick Clegg will promise one, they all promise one. The only way you're going to get a referendum is to get enough UKIP MPs into Westminster next year to hold the balance of power. Then and only then will we get a full, free and fair referendum so that we can decide whether we are a self-governing nation or not. Personally, I think getting back our parliamentary democracy is absolutely the single most important priority. If the people of this country don't want that, I'm prepared to accept it. What I'm not prepared to accept, frankly, is seeing my country sold down the river by a career political class who cheated and lied on this issue for decades.
Mr Farage, Kevin Schofield from The Sun here. I was just wondering, you've been dropping some hints of further Tory defections. In light of the result last night, are you more or less confident that you'll have more Tories trying to cross the floor and join UKIP?
Well, Kevin, as you know, with Douglas Carswell and with Mark Reckless, I didn't drop any hints at all. I didn't even tell my own party they were about to come across, because I think, you know, it's just sometimes secrets and surprises in politics are a good thing. I'm not going to stand here now and give you a list of names as to who I think will defect to UKIP, but I will say this. I would be very surprised, given the electoral mathematics, given what Rochester does to the kind of constituency where maybe the Tories hold a seat, but Labour are a very big second. I would be very surprised, given where we are, if there weren't more defections between now and the next election. They won't happen today, they won't happen tomorrow, but over the course of the next few weeks, people will be thinking, and perhaps some of them saying to themselves, do you know what, I've got a better chance of winning on a purple ticket than I have on a blue ticket.
But you've got a 7 percentage point lead in Rochester and Stroud. That's not really strong enough, is it, to give people the confidence to say, I'm going to walk across the floor?
next May, here in Rochester, we won't see the entire cabinet. They'll be too busy trying to save their own skins. The Tory party cannot possibly mount anything like this level of campaign in constituencies across Britain because there are 650 seats to fight. We've gone from nowhere to holding a lead. We incidentally also won a council by-election here last night and won that pretty comfortably too. Mark Reckless is in. He has shown tremendous courage and I think honour, by saying, look, I'm just leaving the party and joining UKIP, but I'll give people the chance to vote me in or out in a by-election, and I'm absolutely confident he will hold this on May the 7th next year.
Mr. Farage, you talk very eloquently about the one thing you get off on, but other policies are a bit problematic, aren't they? Last night on Question Time, Douglas said you didn't believe anymore what you'd said about the National Health Service and going for an insurance option. Several times things are said by you or your party representatives and then you change your mind. Why should we trust you? Because you seem to change your mind an awful lot.
Well, because unlike everybody else, what we do before we formulate policy is we actually have a debate. There's the sort of suggestion we get from Andy Burnham and Labour is there should be no debate. We should leave everything as it is, and sloppy thinking leads to things like mid-Staffordshire NHS and thousands of people die. What I suggested, Yasmin, 2.5 years ago, was why don't we have a think about how our European neighbours do things, and in particular France and the Netherlands, who do use a health system that's got a very high percentage of insurance within it. And I threw that in. It wasn't policy. If you see the exact words I said, let's have a talk about this. Maybe we will go in this direction. And we've had that debate. And what we've concluded, actually, is that a National Health Service free at the point of delivery is fine, but it needs mass simplification. There have been so many structures set up, particularly during the Labour years, and a 48% growth in middle management, that we think better health care could be delivered, yes, using the current system, free at the point of delivery, but with significant slimming and change within management. And it is the right and healthy thing in politics to have a proper debate before you formulate a policy.
Nigel Farage, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.